Welcome and good evening. This is the Horace Towns. I have created a name for myself, and it means something nowadays. Um, Listen, I'm a transparent person. I'm a public figure. I do the Black Super Friends show, and I do BAC. But God has been kind of getting me to create more content. And the person that I'm on this screen with right now is someone who organically we just started having discussions here and there. Hey, what's up, bro? And it turned into something else. Somebody that I trust. I know him to be 100% certified leader, man, and I really always base my shows off having organic conversation, nothing scripted. Hey, when I talk, I'm transparent, so I'm always gonna admit my wrongs and confess what I might have been through. Hopefully, it bless somebody else. To get me past that. It's therapy for me, but that's what God has been putting on me. Like, get all of that out, and I think we need more of that. But I appreciate you giving me some of your time today, bro, just to share the kind of conversations we've been having. Dr. J, Pastor Jamian Lovett of the Raw International Church.
And thank you for having us. I'm humbled and honored to be able to sit down with such authentic leader as yourself in our community, somebody that's pushing for civil rights and all the other different things in our community, Riviera Beach, where we grew up at. People look down on us, but we actually have a gold mine. And if it wasn't a city that was treasure, so many people wouldn't trying to take it from up under us. And I think that you understand that, and that you have a vision down the road to see that, and that you're pushing for change and direction in our city. And I can appreciate and applaud that on your behalf. I'm humbled to be here with you, sir. I really am. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate it, my brother. Like I said, I'm humbled to have you. Social media has allowed us to take stuff to a different corridor. And now you can get your message, no matter what it is, around the world. And I think men always got to be in a place where they feel safe, whether it's with a woman or with a male, like to be able to conversate and share what they feeling. We were taught to be we was taught rough. We almost raised like pit bulls to a certain degree. Be tough, don't cry, and a lot of men were carrying that stuff around for a long time. And now we get into a place where we understand and we're getting a little more emotionally intelligent to say, I don't have to carry some of the stuff I've been carrying since a child. I don't have to carry around, rejection from school, not having a dad. All of that, I'm telling you, as a 40-year-old man, came back to kind of make me, see that, bro. Some of the things, the way I conduct myself, the way I handle stuff is shaped in how some of those moments. And I said all that to say, I talk to you and get nuggets here and there. I The last 3 years, I took myself off of the shelf and worked on myself. I really indulged myself in work to give me something to do while I'm working on myself, work through some pain, some trauma. And I thought I was amazing because I came out, the work gave me some success. It gave me some, it was lucrative because it's work. You got to work on anything.
Right.
But just recently, I thought I was healed from a few things, and I got triggered by the smallest thing, and I felt like it took me all the way back, and it made me examine, like, am I being real myself? Um, what's the word? What do you know about triggers? Like, there's two men talking, like triggers, man. A lot of people don't even know what that is.
Oh man, it's something that can cause you to relapse. Triggers are something that can cause you to um, go back to a dark place. Triggers are things that causes you to think on something of the past or to act in a way that you maybe normally wouldn't act. It's not handling yourself carefully, but triggers are vital things, and so most of us do have triggers. Women, men, you know. You talked about being rejected from school, but most of our rejection starts from birth. Whether most people don't realize whether that's your mother who didn't want you or your father who didn't want you from the womb. And so there's a such thing called rejection from the womb. And generally, when we don't get delivered out of that, that follows us through life until we realize what it really is on our life. And so we get rejected by men, we get rejected by girls, we get rejected by people altogether. Not to say that you're a bad person, but what the enemy understands is if he can create drama in your childhood, you'll have drama in your adulthood. And a lot of us, we don't know how to get past that. We don't know why we deal with these different triggers, but a lot of this stuff has been formulated ever since you were a little kid, because that's where the enemy affects you the most. He understands that if he can affect you while you're small, this is when you are in your sponge stage. Your mind takes up the most information. If he can affect you then, it can play out into your adulthood. And so these triggers can be very bad for some of us if we don't confront them head on.
I think as men, like I said, I think, bro, until I was in my 30s, I didn't even know nothing about emotional intelligence. I had someone I was with who kept beating it into me. And emotional intelligence, 5 love languages, that's stuff that men, me from 20 to 30, I was based on surviving. I'm trying to pay these bills. I'm trying to establish myself as a man. I'm trying to take care of my kids. And I'm in survival mode. I don't even know if I'm in a mode where I can take time to try to analyze who I am, or talk about, not having a dad, or, nobody ever came to my football games. I acted out in ways, but I don't think most men, we don't have that luxury, or maybe we won't have the courage to say, I need to take time. Because it took me getting to this age to say, bro, I'm burnt out. Like, I got to take this time just to figure out who I am before I hit the grave.
Oh yeah, that's powerful. But at the same time, you're right, because again, from a spiritual aspect, the man obviously was built to be the covering of his home. And a lot of times, if we don't have any covering, then we're cold. You didn't catch that, bro. And a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, when the cover is not there, the covering is not there, we go cold somewhere. When you lay down at night, most of us were comfortable under a blanket. Some people need the fan, some people need the AC down to 60. But what you do to be in a place of comfort is you have a covering on, you have a blanket. And the man was designed to be that covering. And a lot of times, especially in African American communities, the male is absent. Generally not because he didn't want to, but he doesn't know how to be a man. He didn't know how to be a covering. And so some of us, we just wing it, because you didn't have a blueprint, because I didn't have a blueprint. We had to learn how to be a father. We had to learn how to be a good father, or a better father than the one that we did not have in our lives. And so a lot of times, going around and navigating around that corner, you'll bump your head quite a bit, right? You bump your head trying to learn how to be this and how to be that. But understanding, a lot of times with that trauma of not having that male figure in the house, here's the thing that I like to say: people mind what's in their hearts, right? But because they don't know what's in their hearts, they don't know how to change their mind. You'll catch that one later too, bro. But hear me when I say this. Obviously, the enemy tried to do so much damage to you while you were small that he tried to take away things or affect you in ways that would play on your mind throughout your adulthood. And that's what most of us are living out today. It's okay to go to church, right? It's okay to hear the word, but it's okay to sit down with a therapist as well. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that our people have such a hard time sitting down and talking these issues out, even like we are right now, and talking about issues and being transparent about some of the things that we went through in our childhood. And so we internalize this stuff. And then when triggers happen, we explode like a Coke bottle that's been shaken up.
Bro, listen. So 2 things. I got the 2 nuggets. One, you're right. As a child, bro, I tell people, like I said, I don't have no filter now. Like, I tell people who I was, and I really want people to get, because they assume stuff by looking from the outside. As a kid, bro, and I'm talking about age of 5 to probably like 6, 7. I was the most suicidal kid in the world. Felt alone. I was the first. No other kids came along for a while. I'm around a bunch of adults, man. I was shy. bro, I was looking for some mentoring. Didn't have the dad. But to your point, on the second thing is, I can admit, and I say this for my fellas, I didn't respect the spiritual aspect. In my last relationship, I did not respect that because my dad and my granddad, they was just providers. They didn't really have a present. Hell, they didn't even teach me about marriage or relationship. See, my granddad go to work, he provided, take care of everything, come home, he gone again. But I never seen him in all our life pray, whether it was grace, pray for us before we went on the trip. You know what I mean? So you were saying that the man is covering. I can honestly say my wife, my ex, I depended on that and that is a transparent thing to say. I was looking for my wife I felt safe enough to show, like I want to learn more, and that was out of order. But at the same time, I did seek refuge in that, and then because of my brokenness, I end up resenting the person for it. So not even respecting the spiritual place of man, God, man, and all that. That was something I didn't even know. Like it's foreign to us. And a lot of us don't know because we copy what we see, bro.
Yeah. And in a society today where, and sisters, I hope the sisters that see this don't think that I'm negating their power, their dependence or independence. In a society today where it's teaching women whether to be independent, there's a lack of reverence for the male figure. But the way God designed it, he designed a man to cover the whole household. And so the absent father, the absent husband, is just a way for the enemy to create drama in people's destiny, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's why us having these different segments that we're going to be recording, you'll be surprised after we do a podcast, whether it's about therapy, triggers. Man, we've talked on everything. I talk about divorce because nobody ever asked a man about divorce. We don't talk enough about, the man who didn't have a daddy trying to raise a kid or raise a daughter. But you'll get a dude at the corner store or barbershop or put him to the side like, bro, yeah, I seen that, man. And it did something for him. And that's giving me more confidence to create more. Like when I share your stuff, people are like, bro, that man, who is that? He be right on point. And I think we come from an era where men didn't talk. Men shut up, went to work, came home. We ain't never call it granddaddy house. We say grandma house. So the men didn't really get much respect, bro. So yeah, I applaud the messages that you put out, and I applaud us. I just want us to get more comfortable having conversations, and then hopefully they'll make women see that men do feel. They don't think we have that, in us.
Yeah, no, we definitely have feelings. At the end of the day, we were taught to be tough. We were taught we were taught don't cry in front of people. I just talked about this last week, and if we cried, it was in a place of solitude, right? A place of isolation, where nobody could see us because it was a sign of weakness and people saw us cry. We were even tough to try to hold it in when our moms gave whooping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Until it got too rough, and then you finally just blurted out and just, hey, because eventually if you didn't, she was gonna keep on getting you harder and harder until you showed her, hey, okay, I done made an effect. But we've been taught for so long in our lives that we had to be strong. We had to be the encourager. We had to be tough. We had to be the provider. But who encourages the encourager?
Mm.
Who comes back to pour into the person that's been pouring out? Because here's the issue: if we don't stay full, when our cups run out, then we give them from the overflow. And when the overflow run out, we're empty. We ain't got nothing else to give.
Right.
And once we give out, then we start to burn out. And that's a big issue with us, is that we've given so much and didn't have anybody else to pour back into us. Unless now we go back to our childhood when we didn't have that male figure. And, for some of us, the streets raised us. For some of us, the dude on the corner raised us. For some of us, gangs raised us. You know what I'm saying? For some of us, women raised us. But if we didn't have that proper male figure in our lives, right, to keep on pouring into us continuously, then eventually when you keep giving from your cup, you're going to end up giving out. you don't get filled back up. And so I think it's very important for us to take some time for ourselves. Like you said, you took a time of reflection, and I think a lot of us miss that as male figures, and we don't reflect on ourselves. We don't look over life ourselves and say, man, where am I? Am I happy with myself? Am I doing what I need to do in this present time and moment? Rather, I think a lot of us, like, you and I talked before, I think a lot of us are just surviving. We're not thriving in life, we're just surviving. But once you keep on staying in survival mode, if you don't know how to come up out of the maze or the puzzle that you're in, eventually you're gonna get caught. And once you get caught, it's over. It's over. You can't look. God never intended for you to just survive. He wanted you to thrive. He said, beloved, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul should prosper. Right? That's Bible. I know we ain't talking all Bible here, but God's will is for you to thrive and not just survive.
Good. So why I got you, bro? Why I got you on here. Let me tell you something. So on our show, Triples was a big show, but we had a show where I was in tears. And I don't know, bro. I've had so much emotion over the last years. Just recognize. So some of it's gratitude, like God, bro. I was so blind because there was so much I thought I was doing. Woo, when I came out them streets, boy, I'm like, boy, God was really had his hands on me. But on our show, after I separated and I was single, like I said, I filled the void by working on all these projects. I worked, I wanted a home. I had my agendas for it. And my three best friends on the show, one day I just lost it on them because I felt like they never checked on me. Nobody ever stopped to say, hey, bro, are you good? And then at the same time, I was like, well, I never told them that I was hurting. It looked good from the outside. I'm golfing. I'm out here smoking cigars. I'm taking trips because I'm trying to just go forward. And I'm empty. I'm hurting. I'm in pain, right? And then it made me realize something. I was grieving. Bro, my grandmother, who I call my mom, died in probably 2003. And I did everything correctly. How you supposed to do? Supposed to be a man. Bro, subconsciously, I could be off. And it took me almost 15 years to realize I was still grieving her death, right? But at the same time, me having my friends, I started to see some of my friendships starting to see me going here and seeing me separate for some of my friendships. I didn't know that that's grieving as well. Because my perfect picture, we was all gonna be, still around and just starting to see the road take us in different directions. Was something that I battled with. My friend Mario, who's the spiritual guy on our show, had to help me. So from grieving that with my mom, grieving that relationship, and grieving the friendships that God was, me asking for elevation requires some separation for some things, right? Why do we give me some thoughts on grieving? Because people think grieving is only related to a physical death, but people don't know we carry around a lot, man. And that's, bro, them triggers will bring you to it, but I don't think we really explore. I don't even think we are aware of some of the mechanisms that are working. That's why I love talking to you, because triggers, grieving, that stuff is like foreign language in our communities, but it's probably affecting us the most.
Right. Well, no, you're right. We can be grieving things that are still here with us. Which potentially, man, you said that you grieved your grandma for 15 years. And I lost my grandma this year, who happened to be my mom. She literally raised me from a young man to a man. So I had her for 42 years. And, when her time came this year, when I got a call that she was turning for the worst, I was across the seas in the Caribbean, man. And I was celebrating my wedding anniversary. And to hear this, it kind of turned me around. Of course, it's not real until it knocks on your door, right? And so my whole thought was, could I make it back over in time to say goodbye? And they called us and said that she was getting ready to go, and that she was getting ready to check out, basically. So at the end of the day, long story short, we ended up making it back. I had to, I got back late on a Saturday night. I had to minister the next day on Sunday before I could go see my grandmother in hospice. And so I preached that Sunday morning and went straight over to hospice to see my grandmother, who her spirit was alive, but she was unconscious, right? So I was talking to her conscience. I was talking to her and giving her some promises that I would try to make good on as she got ready to get out of here. And I'm used to being that tough guy. I'm used to being the encourager. I can probably count on my one hand how many times I probably cried in my adult life. And I've been around a lot of losses. I preached a lot of funerals. I've lost a lot of loved ones, people who were very close to me. And when my grandma checked out, which was later on that night, I went home. I talked to her, so she stayed alive for me to talk to her. And I went home. I got a call like at 9:45 that night that she, transitioned. I didn't cry at the moment. It wasn't reality until I was used to going to my childhood home in which I grew up in all the time. And I'm used to picking up the phone to call her every week. And when I picked up that phone to call that number, knowing that nobody was going to answer, reality hit. And didn't cry much at the funeral, a little bit. But man, where it really hit me that night, that evening, my wife took me out just to get me away to go eat or whatever we were doing together. And man, the grief set in different. It wasn't tears, but it wore me out so much so that, man, we were sitting at a red light and I literally just passed out. Like I went out. I was tired. So when we talk about that word grief, when we bring it from not just physical, but present relationships, as well as people departing into the afterlife, that word grief can also mean burden, right? And if we don't have the right mindset, what we think is a blessing can be a burden. I heard you think about grieving, or you talked about grieving relationships and friendships that you thought were going to the next level, that you were getting ready to go to. And what we don't understand is that some people come into our lives to be seasonal and other people come into our lives to be for a lifetime. The issue is, if we don't know how to discern which one is which, we can think that seasonal people are meant to be there for a lifetime, and we'll end up grieving them when we were only supposed to celebrate the season that they were there for. And so based on that and that alone, that tells me that everybody can't go where God is trying to take me. And for us to sit there to grieve people who are only assigned for a season would be contrary to what God is actually assigned to your life. And so we have to make sure that we understand, God, what's your will for my life? I can have an emotional attachment to anybody, right? We can have an emotional attachment to wives, to family members, to friends. But we have to understand that life is a puzzle, and we can't waste our time trying to make people fit where they don't belong.
My G. So, like I said, you're a leader. So people, man, I'm pretty sure somebody watching that, like they ain't even had that mind. Because, some people, from the people we depend on, we draw on them, but we don't ever think about what they go through. You know what I mean? Seeing my mom being a pastor, man, she's, praying here. Somebody's sick, she's over there. Like, bro, I just respect y'all so much because it takes a lot of discipline to respect that calling. And that's a lot, man. Men, period.
It's
Um,
in the aspect from that point of view that you got to love people, pray for people who only love you for what you can offer and not who you are. Meaning they love the anointing, they love the prayers, they love the word, but they may not love you for who you are. And so when you go home in the evening, sometimes it's only the family who really loves you for who you are. And we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay, because once we said yes to the assignment, we know that no man looking back is fit for the kingdom. No man putting his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom. So when we gave God a yes, it ain't no way that we can abort the mission in the middle of the mission because people treat us unfairly. And so for every pastor, leader, male, female that are doing this, I applaud them because this is a tough role. I'm young. And man, I've been in places. Last year, I almost lost my life with meningitis.
Mm.
People don't know that because I didn't broadcast it on social media. I was in the hospital for a week. I was down for another week after that. I almost lost my life with meningitis. After the death of my grandmother, man, my blood pressure has been through the roof, threatening stroke, numbers like 173 over 127, numbers like 168 over 123, but still going to preach to the people and still trying to make sure that the people are okay. Sometimes we have to come down and have some self-care, right? And think about ourselves, because I had to think about this. Before I became a pastor, I was a man.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, before I became a pastor, I was a husband and a father. And I have to be here for them first because that's my primary ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else. And some people just won't get that. So if that means that my daughter or my son have a game or a performance or a sorority thing that night, I'm going to put you on the back burner. And I'm going to go take care of my family first. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to deal with that. But some people don't get that. Some people don't get, why didn't he answer my call? Why didn't he answer my text? You understand what I'm saying? So people that are doing this, man, people don't understand. It's a whole nother lifestyle. But on the contrary, I know that there's somebody who's saying, but you're supposed to do that because you're a pastor. No, the Lord didn't tell me to sacrifice my family. You see, before God introduced the church, he introduced the family. So that's Bible, right?
Yeah.
So in the garden, it was Adam and Eve. There was family before there was church. And so I'm supposed to attend to my family first before I attend to the work of the church. God first, right? God first,
Yeah.
family, then church. And when I say church, I'm talking about the work of the church. God didn't tell me to abandon my family to go take care of somebody else's needs first. He never told me that.
Mm-hmm.
And some people never get that because they have a picture of what they think a pastor's supposed to be. Especially you know me, bro. I'm wearing hip hop gear all the time, sneakers, and they be like, "Oh, you're a pastor, tattooed. Oh, you're a pastor." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if we come 21st century, the real question is, what does a pastor look like? You know what I'm saying? What, I gotta wear a 3-piece suit everywhere I go? And if I don't, I'm not saved. My clothes save me. My clothes put me into heaven. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think it's my clothes, it's my relationship. And who determines my relationship? It ain't people. It's me and God, right? I didn't mean to cut you off, bro, but I had to throw that one in there because I applaud your mom for doing what she's doing and carrying the family and still doing what you do. People don't understand that the work of a minister is very arduous, very arduous.
No, I was gonna say, man, one thing I never played with God is being disciplined, right?
Mm.
And you said something because I said I want to ask you two questions, but that picture, I told some kids today that I was talking to applaud the AKA chapter for what they did at Palm Beach State today with the youth, middle school and high school. They were talking to the youth about career, life skills, social media, self care, and they had a panel of people there. But I told the kids today, there's a lot of cap on the app. Believe that about these apps. There's a lot of cap on the app. Don't let this, what you see, create a false God for you. You know what I mean? Because a lot of y'all are copying. You don't know what's behind that. So when I tell people, a lot of people in this city respect me. What's up, bro? They, instead of asking me, they have this idea of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that's why I'm sharing more. I don't want that on me.
Yeah.
Let me share with you the real, for you can get it, or somebody else can get it. And I was telling on the show, on the BSO, on the Black Super Friends, I said when people, I got a bag, empty, and I'm telling you, I'm going through all of that. I was in a depression and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Didn't even know it, bro.
Yeah.
Didn't even know it. And I made a lot of decisions and did some things that I regret now, but I got to live with. That's what a man do. You know what I mean? But those images that people are chasing, I say, man, I pray to people that, like you say, be real with yourself. Like at the end of the day, that mirror, you got to give yourself a straightening in. And that's why I champion having this conversation. I was like, produce. Just when I want to walk away from the show that I produced, like Black Super, I want to walk away from. I've been burnt out. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. No. And now he's asking me to do more. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm burnt out and I got to do more. And you tell your story. I'm telling. Like on this thing, I've been telling you about, hey, I went through depression.
Yeah.
I had triggers.
Yeah.
And if that's going to free somebody else, man, I'm all for it because I was looking for that, because I always see, and this is not calling out any past, I always see people preach on one thing. They're there, but how did you get there? What that blueprint? What that roadmap? And I just know those images will kill you and lay you out. Why do we struggle with that in our community so much?
I think that it goes back. It probably supersedes slave days, right? One thing is that we were taught to hate ourselves. We were taught to hate the color of black altogether, right? We were taught to hate our skin color. We were taught to hate another brother. This goes back to plantation days and maybe even before. And because white or something like that was taught as superior, it's been a generational curse upon our entire culture. We look for other things outside of ourselves to become better, not understanding that God already placed greatness on the inside of you. He said, before I formed you, he said, I knew you, right? In your mother's womb. And the issue is, if God had his hand on your life, if God called you to this earth, you are already anointed to be great. The thing about it is, I have to get my mind right so that I understand that God has called me to be great, because most of our warfare, it's in our mind. And so what the enemy does is he doesn't just want to change what you think about. He wants to change how you process it. And if he can affect the way that if he can affect the way that you process, the way that you think, this is when a wrong mindset can cause burdens to become blessings, or blessings to become burdens. And all the time, if we didn't have the perfect person in our home to show us, you know what, this is my hero, not the person on the TV, then we're always looking on the outside of who we are to be great or better. Somebody else is always better than us according to our minds, not knowing that God created a lane in a space just for you so that you can be great in your own right. It may not be to talk to 100,000 people. It may not be to shoot a basketball. It may not be to catch a football, or to rush for 100 yards, or to throw for 1,000 or 4,000 yards. You may not be the next Tom Brady or Warren Moon, or you may not be the next Michael Jordan, but what did God anoint you to be in your own right? And so the issue is, we look on the outside rather than looking on the inside of who God created us to be in anyways. That's our biggest issue.
Man, you know what's amazing about this? This conversation flows. Every time I get with you, bro, we literally can go anywhere and probably have a conversation for hours.
Yes.
And I said that because when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. When I was in high school, I thought I was going to make it to the NFL and play like at least a season or two. That way I can make enough money, pay off my house, and then I ain't going to have to work no more.
Yeah.
I never seen myself in those streets. I never imagined me in politics.
Yeah.
I never even imagined me doing what I'm doing now. And I do a lot. Mm-hmm. But I look back in retrospect, like my ego really had me believing I was making stuff happen. You know what I mean? Growing up in Revere, I can tell you some close calls where, bro, I probably should have been dead. But I thought it's my quick thinking, got me out of that situation. In politics, like, I really thought I made it happen. When I got that bag, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna plan, this the plan. And I get this, I'm gonna do that. And one day, boy, God slapped me silly, like, bro, like when you get those, I can't explain that moment when the blinders come off and you see life. You're like, boy, I was so foolish, bro. Like, yeah, man,
I was blind, but now I see, right? Amazing.
So let me ask you the last question, man. I remember you before I met you. I heard everybody talk about this cat named Lovett. You was a running back.
Yeah, yeah.
Me, bro. I was like, and I seen you one day, and I was like, that joke in high school, you know. So the way they talked about you, I really thought you was gonna make it to the league, you know.
I didn't.
Um, so my like we all. Um, but let me ask you something, bro. I see you got the you keep you know you dress fly, whether it's church or whether it's fashion gear. You know, you're an everyday dude. You're a pastor. You're a doctor, but you're an everyday dude. Like there's somebody I can say to my son, like, hey, that's a good dude. Where was where were you in life, or what was your pivot? That's my final question. Where were you in life when you seen that pivot? Like these things start ushering you in to where you're at now, or you start to see, okay, God maybe want to use me for a higher calling, or I'm seeing that I have a gift to lead people and pray for people, intercede. What was that moment?
Let me go way back, and like you said, uh, my year, I was blessed to have a great line at Suncoast, but I was also pretty decent and athletic in who I was. So yeah, we had a real good team. Our Suncoast team at that year was one of the last playoff teams in Suncoast thus far, 98. You know what I'm saying? This is before Devin Hester. But we were one of the last playoff teams. And so, yeah, I thought me and my crew, me and my best friends, we all thought one way or the other we were all going to make it some way. And you couldn't tell us anything different. I was fast in the 40. I knew how to break tackles. I knew how to shake people. I knew how to do my thing. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought that I was going to make it. But watch this, you know what I mean? I ended up having my son the end of my senior year, getting ready to go to college. And his mother's pregnancy actually got my mind a little bit away from football. So I wasn't applying myself to go to bigger schools. I was trying to stay close to home. Bigger schools, I went to the Miami camp, University of Miami camp, killed it. One of the best athletes down there. Running back coach took me into his office, introduced me to a pro running back then who was a city of Miami standout. His name was Troy Davis. He ran for back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons at Iowa State. He brought him in and let me meet him personally. But the issue was I didn't have a blueprint, right, on my attitude. Or how to operate in the presence of other people. And so down there at that camp, I didn't know that, I was being tested by away from Palm Beach County players, great players, and being placed with a bunch of non-athletic people from Clearwater. And so I was like Keyshawn Johnson, just pass me the ball. You know what I'm saying? And when they didn't, I was having an attitude and a fit. And at the end of the camp, long story short, Miami coach came to me, said, "We like you. We love you. We think you're a great athlete." He said, but right, if anything we can tell you is you need to work on your attitude. My senior year, University of Maryland, they sent down a scout. He was actually a referee on the field. So I did have those type of things and those type of accolades. But somehow, some way, I had my son going into my freshman year. So I went to smaller schools to try to stay close. But somewhere I lost the love for the game. And when I came back home during the summer, knowing that I was going to go back, I ended up meeting my current wife now. And when I met my wife, I never went back to school. She was a girlfriend at the time. I asked her to marry me a couple years later, and we got married 5 years after that. And so, yeah, we're 20 plus years, right? All together, 23 all together, right? 18 married. Here's the thing about it. We went through our thing. I didn't have anybody to teach me how to be a man. And it took me virtually almost losing my daughter and my wife for me to say, Lord, if you bring them back, I'll sell out. I'll give you all of me. And somehow, some way, my wife introduced me to a pastor and asked if I would go to some counseling. And that's when I really dove into the church from there. And I remember having a conversation with that pastor and saying, man, why couldn't I make it to the league? And I remember that pastor speaking to me prophetically saying, it's not that you weren't good enough. He said, but did you ever think that that wasn't for you? Meaning, look at all those guys who are out there living explicit lifestyles, right? Doing the things that they do. God had a call on you from the day that you were born. And of course, I'm thinking, well, Lord, you should have, I'm like you, let me be and just make a couple 100,000, pay off a house or two, come on back and do my thing. I'm like you, right? But God had other plans for me. And because the greatest thing in my life at the moment was my family, I was willing to say, Lord, if you can use anybody, use me. And so it took me almost losing the greatest thing in my life for me to say, I'm yours, Lord. And from there, God changed my life forever. So I was submitted to a pastor for 7 or 8 years, was with him for quite some time. And the Lord, all that time, my wife's great uncle wanted me to pastor his church. And we thought that we were going to take it over, but they were a very traditional church and we were non-traditional. And we ended up not doing it. And that's when the Rock International started in 2012, Easter 2012. And that's how I knew God had his hand on my life.
Bro, I'm speechless. I am. Because, like, we all know your name, we see you. And those, like I said, man, these conversations, man, I want people to be able to really appreciate it and absorb. You know, people don't have to, but most people are private. You know, when I went into music, bro, I swear to God, people think music is everything. I think because I had grew up in church so much that it scared the heck HEL out of me. The stuff I seen, I was like, bro, I'll call them home, like, bro, you know, it's that industry, man, between the sex, the drugs, and other spirits over there, bro. It really took me to a place. But I applaud you for that because you don't hear men, well, I ain't gonna say men enough say, yeah, I got this wrong. I almost lost this. And you see me say, I did lose it. You know, I want you to learn from it, bro. Like, keep that ego to the side. This is real life stuff. These are men because we didn't have a blueprint. If I had a blueprint, bro, I swear to God, I think I would be appreciative. You know, and second of all, the person that was trying to help me, was sent to help me, I was such in a place of brokenness, like it was resentment, like, please, you know, but you live and you learn, man.
Absolutely. That's the
No.
be forever learning, man. You never get to a place where you feel like you got it all or that you know it all. You know, I tell people, regardless of my degrees, and I have several of them, they're earned degrees, not honorary degrees. I tell people, regardless of where I'm at with that, I'm always learning. You know, I'm never to a place where I feel like I know it all. And once you stay in that place, God can continue to use.
Thank you, man. Listen, I'm in a place where I'm humbled to have a conversation today, but I'm humble as a person, bro. I swear, for the first time in my life, I'm just so grateful, so humble. Like, I kind of just like, I want to be the best person I can be. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in life, and I definitely been making a real effort to, make sure my kids are good, make sure if I leave this earth that the gifts that God has given me, that I'm using them. You know, I used to have a lot of fear. You know, I'm overthinking, like I could do this, and or having somebody talk me out of it. Now, anything I think of, boy, I do it. Shows, boom, writing, boom, I'm traveling. So between the courage and just being humble, that's where I'm at, man. So thank
Also,
you for
for having us.
entertaining me,
Body.
entertaining me with your conversation, man. Because, like I say, bro, you a real impactful guy, and I don't have a problem telling another brother, like, bro, you really have a gift, and I appreciate your friendship, man.
Thank you so much, man. And likewise, they say if you can count the number of real friends you have on one hand, you're a blessed person. And, I'm just glad and fortunate to have you as one of those, man. I really am. And, keep doing what you're doing. Let me say that, man. Keep striving to make change in the community, amongst your sons, amongst our young people. Keep letting God have you right where He wants you. You know what I'm saying? And so you keep going in that space. You keep being impactful because you are impactful. You are the man, like you said, the Horace, right? When you say that name, ain't nobody in the city who don't know that name. You know what I'm saying? we want to say thank you for having us, man, and we are humbled and honored just to be in your presence. Real open conversation, and hopefully this gives somebody else's another opinion that pastors are not supposed to just be in this particular religious box that people put people in. Jesus wasn't religious; he was relational, and people don't understand that. He went against the religious sect. That was the issue with Jesus. That's why they wanted to crucify him. So it takes a great eye to recognize greatness. And so, man, I just want to say to you, man, I recognize greatness in you, and I thank you for allowing us this platform to be with you today. Be blessed.
All right. Hey, before we go, man, tell them where they can find you, because I catch them on IG and I share your messages. But you're in Palm Beach County. Tell them about the church. Tell them where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. I senior pastor of the Rock International Church. Started in my beloved city, but ended up moving out. I am in the city of West Palm Beach. We are at 901 North Point Parkway, Suite 306 and 307 in West Palm Beach. That's off of 45th Street. Our social media is the Rock International Church. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. My personal information is Jamian Lovett on Facebook. I am J Lovett on Instagram. Those are my handles.
What time church start on Sundays?
Sharp at 9 a.m. and not 9:01, not 9:02. We believe in being on time for the Lord. We start sharp at 9 a.m. every Sunday.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Let me end this broadcast, but thank y'all for tuning in. And a lot of these segments going to become it's Pastor Jamian Lovett and me. So next week me may be somebody else, but making sure you guys get familiar with this figure right here.
Thanks so much, man, for the platform.
Yeah.
Be blessed.